Welcome to Four Verticals. We're going to talk about Florida State's loss 52-10 to Miami this past Saturday, and we're going to break down what happened during the game and who we should start pointing fingers at. My name is Kevin Little.
I'm Juan Montalvo.
I'm John Marchant.
And I'm Adam Brown.
All right, to start off, why don't you guys just give me your general impression? So I'll go ahead and start with AB.
Oh, great. My general impressions are we don't have a quarterback. We don't have a defensive end that can play football. We don't have a will linebacker that can play football. We don't have a boundary cornerback that can play football. I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot, that we don't have a lot of things. Okay, so really my general impressions are that this is a roster devoid of talent, devoid of leadership, devoid of character. I think that there's a lot of nice guys on this roster. There's a lot of guys that want to believe that they're leaders and difference makers and these types of things, and it just isn't true for a lot of reasons that probably aren't their own fault. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm calling out a lot of these guys, because that's not fair. They're young kids and young adults, and they haven't been taught to do these things. I think that we're in for a long season until we get some new talent in here, and really that's the bottom line.
All right, John, what do you think?
Adam's not wrong. I mean, what else can you say? A lot of the kids they have right now, they're not it. I don't think it's the coaching. It's the same product we've seen over 3 coaching staffs. I think a lot of people already forgot. We had to schedule a cupcake just to make a bowl game in Jimbo Fisher's last year. This is it. You have to do something, I think, extreme to break the cycle and move this program forward. That's what I think.
What about you, Juan?
I agree with what both of you guys have said. Another couple things I would add to that is going by the personnel that you don't have. You talked about the boundary corner. I think you really don't have enough good corners. Period. You don't have a guy who you can trust Asante Samuel at field corner, but you don't have a good nickel, or somebody to play in that star or even Sam Backer position over on the boundary side. Your whole boundary side is a disaster, which just destroys your defense. The purpose of having that under front set up towards the boundary side is control, like we talked about. And guess what? They can't do control anything. You clearly miss having a blocking tight end on the offensive side of the ball. That really messes with a lot of what you're able to do. Your running backs aren't good in pass protection. Your best running back right now looks to be your freshman Lawrence Toafili. I think really the biggest issue here is, it's years of cultural rot. And lack of coaching in certain cases. The reason that you don't have somebody that's good enough on the boundary side at corner position is because you really didn't have much probably press man instruction taught to these guys over the last couple of years, or adequate enough press man coverage coaching. So it's like John said, you got to break the cycle. It's time to talk about youth. It's time to bring take the time and get rid of some of the pieces that aren't helping you or that aren't invested in the program.
Yeah, I think I bring a little bit of a different opinion to you guys, just in the fact that I think that some of these kids that we have that are juniors and seniors that look bad on the field do have talent and they do have potential. But the problem is that, imagine going to like algebra class in high school and having a different teacher every day. It'd be really hard to understand the concepts. Football is a difficult sport. These kids could have potentially had a high ceiling and could have been good football players, but this is what you get when you change your coach 3 times in 4 years. Like, you can't expect continuity, and you can't expect these kids to be solid players if they're hearing a different thing every time they touch the field.
And I think, I want to speak to that on the offensive side of the ball, is where you're really seeing that as an issue. On offense, continuity is king. I mean, if you can have the same offensive coordinator for 3-4 years in a row, you're going to have guys who are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when they're actually coaching, obviously towards the end of the Jimbo era, we saw what happens when they sort of stop in that aspect. But yeah, I think the continuity of coaching is one of the biggest issues on this team, for sure.
Yeah, so I want to speak to a little bit of what Juan was talking about earlier. Think about a player like Marvin Wilson, his tenure at Florida State. Marv's a guy that he came in under Jimbo Fisher and Odell and Tim Brewster. The first thing he knows is a coach quitting, and let's call it like it is. Jimbo Fisher quit. He quit. He left. He bailed. The going got tough, and he went to Texas A&M. Then he has Willie Taggart come in. And Willie was Mr. I'm going to hold guys accountable. You're not going to get a single digit jersey unless you earn it. And we saw after 3 weeks, guys were right back in their single digit uniforms. And then everything we understand was his philosophy was, I'm going to be your best friend, not the disciplinarian that the roster really needed. And there were some things that were not in his control, like APR. So Marv's going from having a guy quit and not hold him accountable, having a guy be his best friend and not hold him accountable, to now a coaching staff that, from what we understand, is all about accountability, and really to the far end of it. That's tough. I mean, that's an impossible thing for that kid to A, trust anybody, B, not look at it and say, hey, I can just do me. I'm going to go to the NFL and just do me. But then look at the guys after him. Some of the guys that were in that class that aren't as talented as he is, so now they have that I can quit, or I can not be accountable for my actions and my play, and I'm not good on top of it. And we see it throughout this program. That's some of that culture rot that Juan's talking about. I mean, this goes back years, and it's going to take years to fix.
And on defense, what I point to kind of like for my argument is, I think if you look at boundary corner and you look at defensive end, we do not have the cats to play those spots 100%. But I
Not
think
the way Fuller wants it played.
The biggest strategy for me is that will linebacker position, because Jaleel McRae has talent. He has physical ability. Emmett Rice has physical ability, but they just can't play. And they make the same mistakes as each other, and it makes me think that it's not an individual fault.
Here's my question to you: is that they can't play, or they don't know how to play?
Right.
Okay. So like we've talked a lot about, we've all been rewatching the game today, and we've been talking about it in our Slack film review channel. And when I look at our linebackers, the game is just moving so fast for them. And like, you can see them process and you can see them get to the information. It just takes forever for them to get there. Jaleel McRae, I mean, you see him drop. It just takes him. He's so late doing it because the game is just not slow in front of him. And it speaks to what you were talking about, Kevin, with they've been on, okay, so that kid had Raymond Woody. Then Jim Leavitt came in and really kind of pushed Raymond Woody aside as linebackers coach. And now he's got Chris Marv. So he's had 3 linebacker coaches in 2 years. And who the hell does he trust? Who does he listen to? Whose technique? Now he's got to listen to Marv because that's who the coach is in front of him. But I mean, this game has never been simplified for these guys. They've never had an opportunity to get it slowed down in front of them because there's just been so much change and no accountability.
Yeah. So I have a play that I kind of want to show that kind of shows. I think we talk about slow triggering, and for me, I saw this during the game and I thought, man, this is what slow triggering looks like. So I have that play pulled up here.
We just saw this all night though. I mean, in space, we're horrible. These guys can't play in space.
Well, and one thing that we talked about before we started recording was, the areas that Miami attacked. It was those, that space between the numbers and the hash. I mean, in soccer, you'd call those the half spaces. They're areas where basically it leaves you a lot of space with which you can go.
Yeah.
It basically it puts your defenders in a bind if you got a guy who's receiving the ball like that. Those areas.
This is a good one
for Miami.
Yes, this is probably the best example I found.
Is that Rice in there?
Yeah.
Rice would be.
Yeah, I mean we're not downhill at all. We're not coming forward at all.
He looks like he's waiting for the running back.
I have.
Yeah.
Only guy who looks like he's playing with any speed is Gaynor, and he's obviously coming in on what looks to be some sort of blitz.
Mm-hmm.
He literally chases him down from the backside when when Emmett Rice right in front of him just falls to the ground. Like, that's unacceptable from a linebacker.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's supposed to be your guy who's able to get that sort of play done, and he didn't.
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Gaynor move maybe to a will linebacker if we.
You
can
know
get
what
someone.
though? You know what though? We see clips of him where where he rotates in from that stud position. He's lost in there. He's same thing. He's standing still.
Well, we saw that last year. Gaynor was playing in that same sort of role in space.
I really think they've got him. There's been a lot of talk about him playing the Fox, and not to get off topic here from the play, but there's been a lot of talk about him playing the Fox. I really think they've got him at the right spot. I think they just need to keep building upon the ways that they're able to blitz him and use him. I think we're going to see that more as they go along here and they get more comfortable in the scheme. I think we're going to start seeing him attack from a lot more angles and them do a lot more stuff with him because I think Herbstreit said it last night. He is the best player on the defense, in my opinion.
Him and Samuel. I mean,
yeah. Not to take anything away from Asante, who is a dog.
So we see here that he is very slow to fill this gap. He looks like he's trying to catch the running back as he comes. I want to show what maybe a better gap fill would look like what we expect.
Can we talk about the fact that Jay Large-Woodby wants nothing to do with tackling anybody?
On any play.
And Jay got juked out of his shoes here too.
Yeah, which was disappointing because he actually played pretty well on the night, I thought.
Oh, he did. That just
these green safeties, Jay and Green. I mean, they're a little late on their fills and their alley runs and their.
They're going to be good players.
They are going to be good players. They you can see it. It's just, and these guys just need reps. They just need reps. Yeah. This is great by Dix. This is fantastic.
You want to see him diagnose, run, get upfield, make a play.
He's always coming downhill. He might be slow at times doing it. And McCray does a better job here coming downhill. He runs right into somebody and gets stuck. And that's a nice job by J-Rob too. I mean, he eats up 62, makes this an easy fit.
Yep. And if don't voice a concern with the 3 down front if you don't know what you're talking about. This is like the Big 12 runs this all the time, and it's basically the only way they figured out how to slow anybody down is running this tight.
These freaking spread offenses, man, they just spread you sideline to sideline, and you better be able to get athletes on the field. This is a good fit, though. I mean, this is a good fit by 33, 32. 6 is coming up, acting like he wants to be physical. They used him in an interesting way last night. I mean, they just lined him up in the middle of the field and said, go to the football, and I don't know. We'll see how he does there because I have a feeling this is what we're going to see a lot of going forward.
It was almost like a constant robber type role.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of – you need to get as much speed on the field as possible with this defense.
I'm curious to see when Hamza is available where he fits and how you move these pieces around. Now, it looks like Jay's going to be hurt. He's going to be out for a little bit because he was on crutches. But, yeah, I mean, this is what you needed out of Dix. This is what he brings to you. He's going to be wrong sometimes because he's a true freshman, but got to look at how they are able to funnel that. I mean, he eliminates 4. Okay, it's not a handoff, and it scrapes off of him. And he's always coming downhill. It's not sideline to sideline. He's coming downhill. He's taking angles away.
Well, that's the big thing for me is even though Dix is young, I mean, this type of play, he's flashing. I haven't really seen that from Leonard Warner. I mean, how many tackles for loss has that guy made? So this is encouraging, but like you said, I mean, he's going to be wrong. He'll be a little bit slow at times, but this is the plus stuff that hopefully he'll give you more often down the road.
Well,
you know, here is that one thing you can look at here is you're obviously your force guy here, Gaynor, does a really good job recognizing and ensuring the King isn't going to be able to run outside.
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, and you know, Dix does a nice job. He's in his gap. We see sometimes we get out of gap, but you got J. Rob in B gap there, and he fits in C gap where he's supposed to be. He's not chasing the ball down inside, chasing ghosts. He fits where his gap is.
And another reason why this 3 down front might not be a bad idea is because Robert Cooper, Corey Durden, Marvin Wilson aren't exactly penetration type defensive linemen. You can't expect them to generate a pass rush. So if you're already not getting that pass rush, you might as well see if they can 2 gap and just stagnate the defensive line and bring that pass rush off the edge.
That's what they were doing most of the night, was a lot more squeeze or contain than really any trying to get upfield.
I mean, this is a situation where they reset the defensive line. I mean, the line of scrimmage. I mean, Marv's got this guy 2 yards in the backfield. Coop's taking on 3 guys, eating up 3 blockers, and J-Rob does a nice job of pushing the right tackle back. And look what happens. You get a tackle for a loss. It makes the reads a lot easier when you're playing on their side of the ball as opposed to your own.
But far too many times we saw these linebackers not coming up and making this play, and what should be a 1-yard loss ends up being a 5-yard gain because they sit there and wait for the running back to get to them.
Yeah, and I would say finishing is a big that has to be a big emphasis. Continue, and I know they talk about it all the time, but we saw plenty of occasions where they're in the hole and they just can't tackle. They just don't bring the guy down. They don't finish. I was watching a play on the condensed version where Cooper's got he's got the center 6 yards, like 5 yards in the backfield. He just doesn't get off. He doesn't shed the block and go make a play. And I think it ended up being it might have been a 3rd or 4th down where he could have had to stop. He just doesn't shed the block and make the play.
So who should they hire when Odell retires this year?
Yeah, I'm not talking about that one.
I mean, if we want to be honest.
I'm not touching it, buddy.
If we want to be serious.
Well, yeah.
I will be honest, though. I went back when I was rewatching the Georgia Tech game. I saw 5 egregious whiffs. You had a guy right there, right where he's supposed to be, whether it was a run fit or whatever in space, and they just don't make the tackle. And I didn't include ones where the offensive player made a great play or whatever. Just the ones where the defensive player had a reasonable expectation they would make the tackle, and then the offensive player went on for a big gain, 5, 6, 10, 12 yards. I counted 5 of those just in the first half, 7 at least overall, I think, through 3 quarters. It's the same story in this game. This is a great play, again, by Dix, but it just happens way too often.
You want to talk about reasons for optimism, though, if you're trying to find a glimmer of hope for the future. There's 18, 8, 33, 32. There's 4 reasons to be optimistic of the future a little bit on defense, because those are 4 kids that are going to be a staple, and they're going to be good players. They're not going to be busts.
And another positive here is, it's game 2 and they're aligning properly against trips. So
I want to go back to what you said about Odell. He might not be a good coach right now, but I really think that this year is proof that kids need continuity. Unless your name is Nick Saban, somehow he can work through it. But even if he's below average or even a bad coach right now, these kids just need some stability for a second.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The answer is not firing people right now.
I've been on the fire Odell train, but yeah,
I agree about continuity. It may not be the right time, but he.
In the future, I agree. In the future,
he told people last year he was retiring after that season, and he didn't, and that's just going to put all sorts of other continuity issues into question.
And okay, so I want to transition real quick to pass coverage. So something people had a big problem with was zone.
Look at 14. Just get some depth, buddy. Take a zone drop, please. Why are you standing still?
We saw this over and over and over and over again.
You're not even dropping flat to play the wheel. I mean, you're just stuck.
I mean, look, though, you're watching the quarterback's eyes. There's no receiver in front of you. You know there's no one coming into your zone in front of you. So get depth, and then he just stands there.
How about Robinson's little I guess he's taking away drag routes?
Is he spy here, or were they doing the spy with him in? They did this
Probably.
They did this again a bunch last night. I mean, it is what it is. And here's the whole: they don't blitz. They don't blitz. I'm seeing 8 blitzing from the safety position. So I mean, they do blitz. 8's coming. There's a couple different dudes coming here, so they are blitzing.
They're
They
actually
do
getting
blitz.
penetration. It's just
Great
when
penetration.
he can throw a slant route after 3 steps. It's
Yeah, when
Here's a
14
question
gets
for you.
no depth at all.
Well, here's a question for you. You'd probably see traditionally in a fire zone, for example, you'd see 11 drop to the flat zone. 14, I think he sees 11. He sees Robinson sort of drop back into 2-yard depth of nothing, and so that he realizes, okay, crap, the flat zone's uncovered. So he, instead of dropping into the hook zone as he should, he sort of just sits in no man's land.
But 14 should be standing on the 50 at least.
I agree.
He should be on the 50.
I'm just noting it looks like he probably was like, well, what the heck?
and I know we're talking defense right now, but this is exactly the throw that James Blackman holds on to and takes a sack on, because he's not willing to throw it until well after that guy has cleared that linebacker.
Yeah, let's make this perfectly clear. Derek King is a hell of a lot better than I thought he was.
He made throws. I mean, Florida State really made him win with his arm, and he won with his arm.
If you take him off of Miami, they're not the team that they are right now.
Well, what bothers me is Louisville did that same strategy, and it didn't work for them. And I guess we didn't want to adjust.
Well, you make him run, you make him throw. It doesn't seem to matter. I mean,
Yeah, he'll beat you either way, probably.
exactly.
Oh, and so by the way, guys, man coverage isn't exactly the answer either.
Play more man and blitz. Press man and blitz.
Yeah, if you want King to add another 100 yards on the ground, play man.
Right.
This is
And
what
what do you
man
want-
looks like,
Oh,
guys.
and then your backers are not good enough at man coverage. Yeah, that's a perfect example. I said it before you pulled the play up.
They ran that pick a couple times.
Great
Yeah,
fit
it's a-
by Jay, though.
It's a really
Fit by Travis Jay.
good pick play.
If you're going to predictably be in man coverage, people will predictably beat you. Like, you're not going to be able to do that all game unless you're Clemson or Alabama.
Can I ask what 35's doing here?
He's walking around.
What the? I almost dropped the F-bomb. What
This
is
is a
that?
family rated show, sir.
What is that?
I think he's spying, right?
I mean, I get why people are frustrated. That's a horrible product.
I mean, I really don't know what Warner's doing there. I mean, if he was spying, he wasn't.
Then you got Woodby and Gainer covering the back out. Oh, come on.
And then, so our will linebackers can't come up in the run game, and they can't cover. So they're basically useless. At this point, I would rather you just put a third-string corner at will linebacker, and at least he could cover something.
Something.
Oh,
Anything.
then they would start putting runs to that side.
Sure, they're already doing
But-
that. It doesn't
I
matter.
know. Yeah, good point.
Rhett Lashley watched this play and said, "Oh, wait, Brevin Jordan's going to be wide open down the seam because Jaden Lars Woodby is so far out of position trying to cover the swing." Guess what happens?
Gosh.
I mean, this is how you build upon an offense, and it's real easy when the defense just sucks.
All right, so
But you know what we see on that clip though, like we're talking about 35, we're talking about Woodby and Gainer. We just see processing of information being so slow. It's so
Yep.
slow.
and
There's such a lag for them right now, and a lot of that comes back to reps. I know people aren't going to hear, "Oh, they didn't have spring" and all that. Trust me, it matters. It does matter. It absolutely matters. These young guys just need to keep getting reps, and they're going to be better. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be elite. I'm not saying it's even going to happen this year, but some of these guys just need freaking reps.
One thing I really like about this play is Travis Jay being, in a deep half and coming downhill 15 yards pretty quick to slow this down. They don't get the stop, obviously, but he gets there quick.
Would you guys say the defense was unprepared?
No, shoot down.
No.
They're just untalented. They're not physically prepared is the issue.
Like, so I've seen that out there. I'm not sure where that would come from, why you would consider this unprepared. Like, what would you have done differently? Or what magic wand could Adam Fuller have waved over this defense to make it seem more prepared or have found success. Like I can't figure it out.
No, I don't think
should have
there's an
called
issue.
more interception plays.
Yeah. I think he's doing what you got to do, right? He's experimenting. There's just no answer anywhere on the boundary side of the field. Like,
No.
you have a free completion if you just throw it that side of the ball, because our will linebacker can't help our boundary corner.
And look, one thing that I think he did a nice job of in preparing for the game, I mean, this is one of the first times we've ever seen a three-man front out of them. I mean, and he knows they don't have a pass rushing defensive end, so they're not going to try to pass rush with guys who aren't capable of doing it. They'll use, the backers or safeties or corners or whoever to generate pressure instead. That's good preparation. I mean, the fact that you don't have a pass rushing D end, that's bad recruiting, bad development.
Yep.
I mean, that has nothing to do with preparing for a game.
Well, and a cheap shot by Georgia Tech.
An big country looks kind of small out there.
He was the hype man. I think he's going to be a nice player, but he's a true freshman, no matter how prepared he came in. And yeah, I mean, I said it in the instant reaction. He's a high floor, low ceiling player. He's going to have a nice career though.
One thing that I think that AB is going to love, he's going to love this play.
Ugh. Why do we have two guys on the quarterback?
Because we know that one of them's going to miss the tackle.
Seriously, 20's on quarterback, 31's on quarterback. Somebody.
My favorite part about 31 is 31 completely misreading the mesh.
Oh yeah, he just runs himself out of the play.
And I wish I could tell you who, because I don't have the call sheet in front of me, so I don't know who's on quarterback. I'm guessing it's probably supposed to be 31 here, but I wish I knew for sure and could tell you guys.
If I were to guess, 31 should be filling that B gap, right where the running back goes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or who's that? Which is the backer there? 35, Warner. He gets eaten up on a block right there.
Yeah, but he's got
to blow that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean Warner's got to be attached to Lovett. He's got to be gap exchanging with Lovett here.
Well, and on top of that, Warner, I mean, he gets not only just eaten up in the block, he can't keep his outside arm free or anything like that.
But seriously, if 31's just fits, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a 2-yard gain, 3-yard gain, whatever.
If one of many things happened, if Warner sees this play and triggers and just blows up the guard, it's gonna hesitate the running back.
Yeah.
Who's the one guy whose eyes look correct through this play is Travis J.
Yeah, you're right.
Disciplined eyes, sees him go and starts going. But
Yeah, you really do see the talent for him. Like,
Yeah.
And J-Rob, I mean, nice kid.
nice.
That's the ultimate backhanded compliment right there. If I tell you you're a real nice person, I'm telling you everything you need to know about yourself.
I mean, this is another frustration. I mean, these guys are basically having a 2 gap now. So I mean, they were trained to be doing what Adam Fuller. What did we talk about? He's going to 1 gap you, and so last year we saw that 3-4 experiment that they tried some 2 gapping. It was a disaster. It's just no continuity. Again,
you better find a way to get this kid on the field.
Yeah. So my question for you is, so I think Travis J is locking down that Buck safety role, but they put Gant in at the end of the game, kind of towards garbage time, and you see stuff like this. Like, maybe we could try him out at will linebacker. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a great idea. He's got the size. I mean, he triggers quickly. I mean, even if he makes the wrong decision a few times, that's fine.
He's kind of been
those other times are going to be better.
He's been a little bit of the unknown man this offseason, and I think it was Chris Nee on 24/7 Sports that had said that he's been banged up a little bit through summer. So I'm curious if he's starting to get healthy now, if he fits into their plans a little bit, because we talked about last week how they need juice on offense. They need juice on defense too. They need guys that are going to come up and be physical.
Well, I mean, look at that downhill speed. I mean, he's going at him. Yep. There's no fear of contact there. That's not looking like number 6.
You know what, though? I mean, look, this is going to be a lost season. It's a year -1, like we've kind of talked about. We've called it year 0, but really it's year -1. You're going to have to make a decision at some point where you say, we're going to get these guys on the field and get them coached up through live reps and mean, he's a guy you probably got to get out there and get live reps with him just to get him into these different scenarios where he screws up and then fix it so later on he knows.
Frankly, it probably wasn't a bad thing for this game to be so out of hand. I mean, you were able to get guys like Ganton in the third quarter. I mean, started to see Tate Rodemaker in the fourth. It's sort of sad to say, but being blown out had a little bit of positive to it.
Yeah, it didn't hurt to get guys reps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the good in the young kids that we saw. So the first one, I think the biggest one has to be this kid right here.
Is it your boy?
No.
Oh.
I thought about it all day. I thought about it all day today. He reminds me of a young Travis Etienne.
He's got a very similar build.
Very similar build. He runs with a ton of power. He runs very inside his frame with his high knees.
He has a similar number, right?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to point out that I picked him preseason. Just gonna say that.
He had one of the highest PFF grades, so you're not on a bad track so far.
And I love this counter scheme they ran too. They every time they ran it, I know it was a lot of long yardage situations expecting pass rush, but they blocked it well. They had a lot of success with it.
He's not the biggest guy, but I was actually impressed with the power I felt like he ran with.
He's got juice.
Who's this 45 we kept putting an H-back tight end?
Preston Daniels, on tight end.
The fact that he got 20, 30 snaps, I mean, that shows you
he's been your number 2, but look at him getting around here. I mean, he was a lacrosse player, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
he flashes to me. I think he looks like he's a legit player.
Yeah, he's a guy who can earn a scholarship, but he's not a guy that you really want to have on the field right now.
Yeah, no, just because I think it's still pretty young to football, but I think you're looking at him and saying, okay, I might have something here down the road.
Oh, yeah, that's one of those guys, you're, for lack of a better way to put it, the Dabo Swinney type who earns a scholarship their fourth year because he's playing.
Now, it's garbage time. I know what everybody's going to say, it's 38-10. It's garbage time. We know it's garbage time, but still, we're trying to find some glimmers of hope for the future here. This is a heavy blitz that they're kind of blocking this up against, and Nesta Silvera is still in there. I mean, they're starting defensive lineman and starting defensive end are still in there, so it's nice to see them have some success.
Oh yeah, and just seeing Toafili make a couple nice jump, that little double cut he does right there. I mean, he's talented. I mean, I don't care if the score's 500-0 at that point. I mean, you're still showing skill.
Yep.
That's why don't talk about stats from garbage time, but let's look at the quality of play that you're seeing, and it's there.
Another guy I think we can talk about seeing a little bit more of is this guy right here.
Hope it's Ja'Kai Douglas.
I don't have one of Ja'Kai.
Tater.
No, Kentron.
Oh, it's Kentron. Yeah, and then he makes both of them. I hope we have the back shoulder throw also.
Oh, you better bet I put the best throw of the night by someone wearing garnet and gold in there.
The best throw of the night was from Jordan Travis to Jalen Phillips. Are you kidding me? No.
That was just.
I got to say, Dillingham's calls last night for trick plays were atrocious. They all came at the worst time, and they all went for negatives.
And you can see if it wasn't a trick play, it would have been a bigger play.
Yep. All right, so let's look at it. Poitier, Kentron, Tron. I like the compressed, outs here.
Yeah, it's like a stick-ish concept.
I mean, it was a little rounded off, but it makes a good job adjusting to the kind of low throw.
I think it's a speed out. I think it's supposed to be rounded.
It is, but I'd like to see him working back towards the ball a little bit.
Gets his head around, though.
How about old Wyatt Rector out here running routes?
Robert Scott in at right tackle.
All right, so let's move on to.
You got Robert Scott and Thomas Schrader in on that play at the tackle positions. So
yeah, and they're blocking Miami's walk-ons.
Schrader, yeah.
Hey, I don't care. They're blocking.
Schrader got 7 or 8 snaps, and I think Robert Scott got like 10, 15. He had a little bit more.
There's Scott there.
Injected into my veins.
That's dirty.
mean, folks, so against all the press man that they've been seeing, or all the press, even press zone, all the press coverage they've been seeing, this is what you got to be able to do. I mean,
Look when he throws the ball.
Yeah. Well before he ever makes the break.
We said it. He's a rhythm thrower. We talked to Kev. We talked about it.
We did.
In the quarterback preview. We've talked about it multiple times here on Four Verts. This kid is a rhythm thrower.
And this is what I talk about when I say he's got a really high ceiling. This is a throw that most college quarterbacks aren't going to make. This is like an NFL level throw, but he just doesn't have the rest of the game to put it together right now. But he's got the potential to make good throws.
Well, I think he or Chubb are going to get some opportunities coming up. I think we've seen the end of the James Blackman era.
I would hope so.
I don't think it's a hope. I think it's done. Put a fork in him.
No, I mean, I think a performance like that in a rivalry game, not that he was the, single worst offensive player. There's several vying for that one. But I mean, it gives an out, for not playing a fourth year quarterback.
That play as a whole, though, is nice, though, because he reads the single coverage over there, and it's press coverage. So he takes what the defense is giving him, which is that back shoulder throw.
Yep. I like it, and you can see that they're on the same page. This isn't a play that you necessarily call as a back shoulder throw, but it's a adjustment you make on the play. I mean, sometimes you call it, but.
Yeah, so, I mean, we look at the young guys. Tate came in, played, got some good experience, and had some flashes of goodness. Toafili obviously played throughout the whole game and played well. Ja'Kai Douglas came in the second half and they really got him involved, and he flashed as a faster guy, because I still think the offense looks slow at times. Like, I just feel like the skill guys just look like they're moving so much slower than everybody else.
Well,
Cameron
that's because Terry was hurt and just in there as a decoy, right, guys?
Whatever. He would never play another down. He would never play another down. I wouldn't play him. I don't care how good he is. Put him on the bench, get him off the roster. You can't.
You just lost 52-10. It doesn't matter how good anybody is.
Again, I don't want to speak ill will of any young person on this team. It's crystal clear. You're not going to win with him. So whatever. If you want to have an attitude, if you want to pout, or you want to try to fight people in the middle of the game, no, goodbye. You can't win. You can't count on that. That's not stuff that you can build a winning organization around.
Well, and frankly, I mean, I'm surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised, rather, if we saw some sort of suspension for him. He put a hand on that dude's throat. I mean, after pushing a helmet off, moved his hand conscientiously to the guy's throat. You can't do that.
Then he's on the sideline cussing at Dugan's like, nope, forget about it. No, can't play for me, buddy.
He needs a serious attitude adjustment if he's going to see the field again.
No. Yeah, so back to the young guys, though. I mean, you saw Cameron McDonald's another player that we didn't throw any clips in of, but definitely need to kind of talk about. I mean, they really kind of built the second half game plan around him, getting him the football, multiple screens, drag routes. I mean, they made it a point of emphasis to get him involved because he's one of the guys that's flashing when he does get the football. And they need more of that. They got to find those guys.
He can catch the ball, which is something that's pretty miraculous.
Yeah. There's another guy. He is a lightning bolt for controversy. I really want to see him stick with Warren Thompson. I called him out last week. I talked about him on the instant reaction if he could just run routes just a little bit tighter, there's something there. And he fought hard through the whole game. Like, he took that shot, he got up, didn't run his mouth, he got back in the huddle. Like, I felt like I saw progress out of him. I felt like I didn't see the pouting going on. And maybe the sideline, you don't always see the sideline, so it's hard to tell. But I felt like he's a young man that was engaged. I know he's had the drops, and it sucks, and he has them at the worst times. But I don't know. I feel like I want to walk my comments back a little bit and not give up on him so soon.
I agree with you. I mean, I think he was one of few guys, especially on offense, that looked like he was still invested through the game.
Yeah.
Using that word again.
So we talked about a lot, but if we were to summarize one thing that you want to see moving forward.
Youth.
Yeah.
I want to see accountability. I don't care how old or young. I just want to see accountability. I want to see if you act like an idiot on the field, I want to see you treated like an idiot. I want to see your butt on the sideline, not playing anymore.
Youth, accountability, progress. That's really what this year's about.
Yeah, I personally want to see
Tate.
Yeah, the Tate train taking off. No, I want to see some. I want to see something new at will linebacker. I don't know. I want to see. I want to see youth on defense. That's what I want to see. And of course, I think if James Blackman touches the field, I think that's a shame.
I know. I think it's a red flag.
Yep.
I mean, it's a red flag.
It would bring back shades of when Francois kept getting on the field despite everything we knew about him.
Yep. We know what James is at this point. God love him. Great. I'm sure he's a great young man and he's invested in this program, but he's not a winner. He's not a good quarterback. You got to go. You got to move forward. If he plays next week, in my opinion, it's a major red flag. Now, that's not to say that you're not thrown in a position where you have to put him out on the field, because somebody gets hurt or whatever. But if he plays another meaningful snap this season, it's a major red flag for Mike Norvell.
And I want to put out a quick PSA to the fans. To me, the biggest problem with our team is a lack of continuity. It's not a lack of stars on the team. It's a lack of these kids haven't had continuity. And at this point, like, you can compare Norvell to Mike Leach or any other year zero coaches who haven't had spring balls either. But the difference is that these kids are through a third head coach in 4 years, a fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years. These kids have no continuity. And you
see it.
This job is harder than you think it is for Norvell and his staff.
So, like, with continuity, like, I think that one of the main things I want to see it also is just stick with your scheme. Don't change who you are. Don't change what you're doing. If you believe in it, run it. Get these guys ready for next year, because this is a lost year. You're not playing for anything meaningful this year. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow. We want them playing for championships and all these things, but look, I don't care if you go 0-10 or 0-11 or whatever. Like, stick with what you want to be. Stick with what you want to do. Recruit towards that, whatever. But get these guys ready for next year, because this year is in the books. It's over. It's done with.
We're already bowl eligible.
Yeah, right. That's the thing for me. You're 0-2. You lost big time to a rival. There's nothing left. You again, like I said at the beginning, you've got to break the cycle. You just can't let this keep going on in the culture rot. You have to do a hard reset. Let some of these younger guys, they're hungry. They want to learn. Let them play, see what you got, and then go from there.
Yeah. So I think that sums everything up. This was a pretty long one. I'm sure that most of the people watching this are pretty frustrated by just everything that's happening in this program. I think patience is needed. I think we got to find hope wherever it is. And I hope that you guys join us back next week when we talk about a win for the first time this season. But as for now, thanks for joining. Go Noles.
We're not trying to be coaching apologists. We're just trying to state the obvious. Mike Norvell and his staff aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yep.
They can't afford to.
You don't want to be paying, 3 coaching staffs.
All right. And now go Noles.